What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com, and today we've got another AMA. This one's all about maintenance calories, being in a deficit, what to do if you've got a sedentary lifestyle, etc., etc. But before we dive into this answer, let's roll the intro. All right, we're back. So this question is brought to us by Andrew, and Andrew asks, I've heard through various resources that if I eat in a deficit in an effort to lose body fat, then my maintenance calories could decrease over time. Currently, my maintenance calories are 2,550. I use a carnivore ketogenic approach in my journey. I've lost 80 pounds, congrats, but I'm stuck at 194 pounds, I'm 5'8", and I'm still around 22% body fat, and that's just a simple measuring of the waist and neck. My question is, should I be eating 2,200 calories along with exercise and weight training, or should I be eating maintenance calories and creating a deficit with exercise and weight training? Also, I'm a truck driver, so I'm very sedentary throughout the day. I'm usually out of the truck and at home on Thursdays and Fridays, so I save my big movements, big lifts for those days, and I work out with dumbbells, bodyweight exercises, and resistance bands while I'm in a truck out of town. I'm desperate to have a flat stomach by the end of the year. Again, thanks for your help. All right, great question, Andrew. First of all, I would ask, how are you determining your maintenance calories and your deficit calories? Are you going through some generic formula online, plugging in your stats, your age, your height, your weight, your activity levels, and it's spitting out that 25-50 maintenance intake? If so, that may be close, but I wouldn't let that be set in stone, so to speak. When it comes to your comment on your maintenance calories decreasing over time, that is very true. Our metabolism is incredibly adaptable, and it tends to follow suit with our environmental factors, such as what our activity levels are, what our intake is, etc., etc. So when you're in a deficit, your metabolic rate is going to be depressed, especially if you're in a deficit for a significant period of time. Whenever I'm going through a cut or I'm taking my clients through a prep, and their calories are dropping, their metabolic rate is depressing gradually to follow suit. The goal is to kind of not outsmart it, because you can't really outsmart it per se, but to basically stay ahead of it so that you're causing enough of an energy deficit to lose body fat while preserving as much lean tissue as possible. So if you are eating around 25-50 on your caloric intake, and based off of your current activity level, your weight is staying very stable, your composition's holding very steady, and nothing's really changing, then that is probably a pretty good estimate for what your current maintenance intake is. But if you're just using some generic calculator and it says that that is your maintenance, that may not actually truly be your maintenance. The best way for anybody to know what their true maintenance is to eat that intake consistently for quite some time, not really change too many variables at once, and see if their composition and weight hold steady. So for me, my current maintenance intake based off of my activity level and my intake is around 3,000 calories. I've been eating 3,000 calories for about 2 months now, and my weight has held steady that entire time. So I feel very confident that that is my true maintenance intake. If I was to put my stats in a generic calculator online, though, it may say that my maintenance intake is 2,500 or 3,500 or a variance thereof. But the best way to know is to truly put it to the test. Now, when it comes to what should you do to lose the body fat if you're still around 22% body fat and you want to get leaner, if you've been consuming around 2,500 calories, you've got some room to manipulate those. You can drop your calories a little bit from that and likely lose some more fat tissue. Some people are fans of just simply, hacking off 500 calories or 1,000 calories right off the bat and then just letting your body do its thing. The problem with that is you'll likely experience some initial weight loss, but then you'll be much more prone to plateau at a certain point, and then you have to cut more calories or increase your training or do something to get the needle moving again. And if you do that, there's a big range there where you may have been able to elicit a favorable response without having to sacrifice that many calories. For instance, let's say you're consuming 2,500 calories right now, and that is what your true maintenance intake is, as tested and confirmed by being at that intake for a while, and you drop 1,000 calories, and you drop down to 1,500 calories. You may have received a similar response from a fat loss standpoint by only needing to drop 300 calories. So you cut an additional 700 calories unnecessarily, which is not good. What I like to do is gradually drop my calories week after week after week in a much more sustainable fashion of 50 calories a week, 75 calories a week, maybe even 100 calories a week if you want to be really aggressive for a shorter period of time. Generally speaking, though, 50 to 75 calories a week. If you do that, you can be much more confident that you're not leaving any calories on the table that you could have continued to consume and still elicit a favorable response. Because you want to preserve as much lean tissue as possible. It's going to be easier to preserve that lean tissue if you're not eating 1,000 calories lower than is necessary, if that makes sense. So that'd be my recommendation. Slowly drop calories week after week after week until you elicit that favorable response. Now, when you go to that lower intake, eventually you're going to want to reverse diet out of that. So you're going to want to increase calories so that you can return to a healthier metabolic and caloric baseline. And just as is true in the dieting phase, when you start decreasing calories over time, your metabolic system depresses. The same is true in reverse. When you start increasing calories through that reverse diet, your metabolism upregulates. So you want to make sure you've got the yin and the yang there. But if you do so gradually over time, then you can preserve as much lean tissue as possible and sustainably lose the fat tissue that you've got and likely not have to whack off 1,000 calories overnight, because I don't recommend that for anybody. So hopefully that answered your question there. With regard to your, should you make up that deficit through weight training, cardio, or just the diet? I would do a combination of both, because you don't want to rely solely on one or the other. Like, do both. If you're slowly decreasing your calories week after week, you're going to get all the benefits from that standpoint in creating a energy deficit. But if you're also doing weight training, and I would prioritize weight training over cardio, do cardio too, but I would prioritize the weight training. That's going to help preserve your lean muscle tissue. And like I said earlier, you want to make sure that you're preserving as much lean tissue as possible. If you don't do any weight training and your body is not demanding that muscle tissue to be there, then it's going to become more catabolic and tap into that muscle tissue reserve as a way to make up for that deficit. But if you're continuing to demand your body needs that muscle tissue, it's going to be much more likely to preserve it. And then your overall composition is going to be better as opposed to just simply the scale weight dropping. Because you don't want to just drop scale weight at the expense of losing muscle tissue as well. You want to lose as much fat as possible while preserving as much muscle as possible. Hope that answers your question, Andrew. Thank you so very much for the question. You requested some peanut butter bricks, so I've got some of those headed your way. For anybody that does not know how these AMA videos work, if you submit me a well-thought-out question via the Google form link below in the description, and I used your question, I will send you some keto bricks with the flavor of your choosing. Thank y'all so much. Talk to you next time.